What are you laughing at? No, but it was pretty bad. No, I won't. We'll talk afterwards.
Bruce, how satisfying is it to come out on top in that game?
It was obviously a really tough game, lots of momentum shifts, and could have gone either way, obviously. So it's satisfying. It's early in the season, so it's still a bit hard to get a sense for where we're at relative to the rest, but I think it'd be reasonable to suggest that they're a pretty good team. So from that context, yeah, we're really pleased.
You must have been pleased with the ability to withstand that pressure that they applied in the last quarter. Just keep your game together. What was your assessment of, I suppose, those final 10 minutes?
Yeah, we thought, they were chasing the game, and they got some good looks. We thought we made some fundamental errors that gave them a bit of a chance, but even more than that, they've got some players when they're chasing the game that are obvious and dangerous, and a couple of them got the shots as well. So we're not sitting here thinking it was perfect, but interestingly, I don't often talk about this, but the age and experience profile of the two teams is very, very similar. And I think that both teams sort of looked at the game thinking we're going to be a better product in 6 months' time, 2 years' time. And partly because of that, you sort of see some maybe inexperience-related errors, but certainly not kind of effort or, big moment errors. I thought both teams were pretty sharp in that respect.
How did you shift the set of clearance was going against you in the back half of the second quarter? Did you make many shifts to actually try to address that?
Yeah, a little bit. It's one of the best parts of the game at the moment, I imagine, for the viewers. Like, if you don't like the 6-6-6 rule, you're not watching it closely enough. It genuinely is kind of 4-on-4 in a lot of space. And there are some things that you can do to try to mitigate the opposition's sort of centre bounce dominance, but it comes with a lot of risk, because especially on the bigger grounds, you're coming from a long way outside the centre square. So you're limited in terms of what you can actually do on the outside. So what happens on the inside becomes more important. But overall, I thought that part of the game ebbed and flowed as well. I thought we got some really good looks out of there. Just a few that they got out the front, a bit too penetrating for our liking. But again, sort of 50-50 sort of situations where the ball spills out, and that looked really dangerous. So we didn't think it was diabolical. We weren't pulling our hair out. It sort of falls more into the bucket of, against a good team, good group in the centre bounce, that's going to happen every now and again.
How do you balance things with Bailey Smith? I mean, obviously love the way that he plays on the edge, but pushes it to silly moments like that one with Jarman Impey. What's the balance in that for you?
Well, I'd probably ask, because you said silly moments, plural, I can think of one in our time on field at Geelong, and that minor, it's not funny. Like, it's always the retaliator that gets, not always, often it's the retaliator that cops the free kick against and touching a footy on someone's face. I hope he's okay, but yeah, I think it's so minor that I wouldn't worry about it too much. We don't condone it, but we're much more interested in a pattern. So even the fact I've spoken about it too much probably gives it too much airtime. But we get that he's high profile, and I wouldn't necessarily coach anyone to behave exactly the way Bailey does, but he kind of is what he is, and our job is to sort of shape him. We knew that he was going to come in, he's going to be a bit different to players that we've kind of had in our system before, but we made a commitment to embrace it and kind of help. He's 23, by the way. I think that's right, 23, 24. He's going to evolve. And as I said, I made reference to both teams' kind of youth and inexperience. It's not just Bailey. We've got other guys that need to sort of pick and choose their moments. But again, he came off the ground and the crowd's into him. I mean, I don't sort of buy into that stuff that much, but my suggestion is that the crowd loved it, the AFL loved it, and I reckon Bailey loves it as well. If the suggestion is that we should try to make him boring and vanilla, then we'll rail against that.
He mentioned after the game that he was happy not to give away an unmissed free kick after half time.
Did he?
So, I mean, are you saying anything to him, or is he just processing what's happening in the game?
We've always been a coaching group at Geelong that gives our players a lot of credit for at least football intelligence. And I've never liked the coaches that state the bleeding obvious. Yeah, I think he gets it. But again, if there's a pattern there that we need to address, we will. Again, I'm not sitting here saying, if you get bumped when the play's stopped, then you should whack him in the head with a footy. But again, in the scheme of things, and I think, there was another example today, it's like, which one are you going to focus on? I can't. Well, I can talk about it, because sometimes you come in and you see a guy who's clearly, still affected, which doesn't tell you everything. And other times you come in like today and he just looked fine. He said he's fine. Yeah, he was obviously a bit out of it there for a while, but now he feels great. Now, he might not be telling me the whole truth, but at least the signs are good.
There's nothing other than concussion at the moment with you?
Not that I've heard, no. But to be fair, and this sounds a bit callous, but we just move on pretty quickly, so that we have people who are charged with making sure that he's looked after as well as possible over the next 24 hours especially, but I won't be stepping on their toes too much.
What did you make of the incident itself?
No, I'd have to put it back to you, because you know that I can't comment on it. You make a comment and I'll agree or disagree.
Did you see it?
Did I see it? Yeah, I've got eyes, yeah.
If Patrick Voss got 3 weeks last week and then he lost and this looked a bit worse.
Yeah, that's an interesting take on it. Yeah, I wouldn't argue against you. You know that I can't talk about it. So I'm not trying to be smart. It would be in your interest if I did, but not in my interest, and I'd get in trouble from my 40-year-old boss.
Sam said that when a player gets concussed, you guys basically concede these weeks to the player, or he concedes those weeks to the players. Are you in the same boat?
I didn't hear what he said, so I don't want to respond to what he said. Players get concussed in legal sort of manoeuvres on the ground. If the point was, if it's clearly an illegal manoeuvre and there's concussion, it just ramps up the seriousness of the incident. I just don't think it helps me elaborating too much. I think it sort of speaks for itself to an extent.
How much access did you have to...
Sorry. I'm struggling to hear a little bit at the back too, so I don't mind who goes first.
Which, just while we're on a topic that coaches often don't like talking about,
Yeah.
how are you feeling about
Let's do it.
umpiring at the moment, generally, where we're at?
I don't have any doubt they're doing their best.
Pleased with the standard?
Like a lot of things in the game, I think we should aspire to make it as good as possible. What you do hope for, I think the part that's absolutely table stakes is that if you're not happy, and it's hard to be perfectly happy, we'll be never perfectly happy with our environment, but what we guarantee our people is that we're working as hard as we possibly can. So I think that's the part that we should be focusing on.
Would you make it tight, Steve? Last quarter, given Myers was off, and it seemed like he stepped up to a level he hasn't probably been at this year.
Yeah, he probably hasn't been at his absolute best, but we've thought in every game he's been dangerous. And there are a few little things. This is so micro, you probably won't remember, but a ball got kicked out to the wing in the last quarter, and it's a 1v2, and it's a critical ball, and his work rate to get over there and sort of halve that contest was brilliant. So we see some of the stuff in and around goal that we like, but you're right. When you lose one of the hardest running forwards in the game, it's almost impossible to replace that. And you're sort of thinking, the longer this game goes, the better running team's going to have an advantage. And when you lose your good runner, you sort of rely on others. And we thought, it's not the way Tyson plays necessarily, but we thought he did adjust when Myers went out.
Sean Manna kicked that final goal and 3 for the match. How do you see his performance? Do you think it's probably his best since coming back into the side?
Did you say Manna?
Yeah, Manna.
Yeah. I hesitate to elaborate too much because I think he's going brilliantly well, and he was really good today. But it's not new. He's been a really good player for us for a long time, and it's more than just a honeymoon period. My admiration for him. It's we we were so keen to get him back into the team, and we might have sort of held him back a little bit, which is, is our practice generally, and we'd like to think that holding him back has meant that he's hit the ground running when he did come into the AFL team. No, he was super.
Just on Sean, Chris, how much access did you have to him over the pre-season with that foot? Did he train much at all?
He had a phenomenal start to the pre-season, really early days. So that actually set him up a little bit because he got a lot of work in, and we thought he was primed to have a great season. And then I'm going to say pre-Christmas, Mac, he didn't do much at all for a few months. Worked really hard in the stuff that he could control, cross-training and that sort of stuff, which again, sort of credit to him mainly, but our staff to try to get him as ready as possible, even though he couldn't run much on that foot. You get guys that miss a big chunk of the pre-season with a shoulder, but they can run. The foot made it a lot harder. I'm going to say his last 3 months in particular has been a credit to his preparation.
I've seen a late change. Was that a third last-minute call, and what exactly was the injury?
Like right up until when the teams went in, he had a hip flexor issue apparently in the warm-up. But it's one of those things, like we had 3 minutes to decide, and the feedback was we don't think he's going to be okay. So it just felt like we had no choice. But it wasn't our decision, it was the medical staff.
Danger shed a bit of light post-game about the traffic issues getting to the ground. How sort of stressed were you that you might have been without a few? I understand Sam Tony might have been one?
Not stressed at all. It's annoying.
How close was it, probably?
Yeah, I wasn't aware of any issue, but we tend to be a little bit more relaxed around these things than other environments I've been in. Like, I remember I played a junior game of footy and was a couple of minutes late, like arbitrary, like time to be at the ground, and you start on the bench. We don't tend to think that way. A bit like pushing a ball in a guy's face. Like, we're trying not to sweat the small stuff.
Thank you, everyone.
You're so nervous back there.